Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On today's video we're starting our corral build project, expanded project for our farrowing barn, which is going to require a lot of sawmill work. So I've got my cut list together and I'm going to show you how we use our cut list to determine when we go into the forest to shop for trees, how we choose what we choose. So come along. So I'm here in my log staging area by the mill and we've got some inventory here. And this isn't the most ideal situation. We can say, well, yeah, it looks like a herd of goats. Well, of course. But we've got a mix of different things. We got some red oak, we've got some walnut, I got a cherry log, I got a white oak, I got some cutoffs from a big old Virginia pine, some cutoffs from poplar, a couple small poplar logs, and another Virginia pine log there. So these are logs that we brought in for specific projects. You've seen videos on some of these. But they're either left over or haven't gotten to the project yet, whatever the case may be. But see, the issue with bringing logs in and stacking them up here is, of course, it takes up space, but B, the log starts to break down. So when I have a specific project that calls for a specific amount of wood, that's when I like to go shopping, as we say, into the woods and choose the trees that we want based upon what we're needing for our yield. So it's kind of a no-brainer to point out, but a lot of people don't really think about when you need to store logs, the best and most efficient way to store them is on the stump. So this Virginia pine tree that I have here is in storage in my hardwood forest. It's not even 100 yards from the sawmill. So one of these days I'll cut it because I don't want Virginia pine in our pig pastures. I'll cut it, we'll put it on the mill and produce whatever we want to produce. But until I'm ready to get this log, it's much better to be standing, growing, and out of my way than if I drag it down into the log yard where it would start to decay. So what are the details of this project? Well, we want to build, I call them these Jordan Green panels, but I've just seen them on his channel, detailed them, liked how he builds them. I'm sure many other people do. In fact, there's probably been around for hundreds of years, but this type of design is what I'm looking at. It's basically a 10-foot long panel, 4 feet tall, and some 2x6, 2x4 lumber to make it secure, obviously keep a pig from going through it. But the plan is to have these portable, movable panels that I can put in storage, and when I'm not using them, of course, and then set them up in different areas. Jordan Green actually just screws his together. He just keeps a drill with him and some long wood screws and screws them together, supports them with T-posts here and there. So it's kind of a neat setup and allows him to make a temporary corral out in pasture to hoard up his pigs there, or to point them from one spot to another. And that's what we're going to do up at our farrowing barn, is we just want to make a smaller area where I can sequester the 2 gilts that are pregnant, that they can hang out there and not go off in the woods on the edge of a cliff and farrow. So I calculated the material list that I need for 7 panels, and that's 21 2x6s 10 feet long and 37.5 2x4s 10 feet long. That will give me the bare minimum amount of material to complete 7 panels. So one point I want to make is just coming up with that cut list. Maybe the first step is like, okay, you got the cut list, now hit the woods and get at it. But Kelly and I actually spent a couple hours trying to figure out exactly the most efficient way to get these material out of the woods. You know, I can just go up to any tree and cut it down and say, oh, I'll just get what I can, but that's not the most efficient. It doesn't necessarily yield the most. So the time it took to calculate all this, we were trying to figure out, and I'm not going to go into detail what all this is. These are actually cut lists based upon what I thought would be the best, and it actually turned out our final answer was the best. But sitting down and calculating how many 2x6s can I get out of a specific square cant. In this situation, it was an 8x10. I roughly know what type of logs I have access to right now as far as diameter goes. But being able to figure out what that cut is going to be to maximize, and we actually came up with this cut list that we're going to look at trying to produce. We need 3 10x10 cants, and then we also need 4 8x8 cants. So those 2 sets of log sizes should yield the materials that we need. And this is actually how I break them out. I use some graph paper here to actually figure out how to cut. Now, obviously, I'm not taking kerf of the saw blade into account, but that's negligible. But this helps us figure out exactly what we're doing. Okay, so now we're back up here in the woods, just across from the boar pasture. I'll post the map here so you can see where we are, get an idea of our approximation. So the plan is to look at some of these trees we have. The species we're looking for are poplar and Virginia pine. That's what I use for most of my outdoor projects. I save my oaks and my other hardwoods for woodshop projects. But using some online calculators, obviously there's equations you can use, but did a cant calculator. We know we wanted the 10 by 10 cants and the 8 by 8 cants is what we wanted to end up on the mill. We can use a calculator to determine, okay, what's the diameter log we need? Because obviously we can't just measure a tree and know it's the cant size in. So you have to use a calculator, or you can use some equations. There's 30% of the diameter is one rule of thumb. I think there's something more particulars. Take the square root of the half of the diameter or something like that and multiply it by whatever. Anyway, you can, if you've got cell service, you can just Google cant calculator and you put in the size of the cant you want and it'll tell you the diameter log, or vice versa. You put in the diameter log and you can find out what your cant is. That calculation is based upon a very straight log, and it's based upon measuring, of course, the tip of the log, or the narrowest end, the smallest end. So since these are standing, we're not going to be able to measure our smallest. We're going to do a chest height measurement, which is standard log protocol, and we're going to use our handy dandy logger's tape, which was only, Cal, how much was it? 150. It just keeps getting more and more expensive as the videos go along. No, I think not a typical tape. You're not going to find this at a hardware store. I had to special order it, and it was, I think it was, yeah, about 70 bucks. You're right. So we're going to go measure some trees here and see what we come up with. So at the cant size that we want, again, allowing for some margin of error, I'm looking for 14.5-inch diameter logs for the 3 10 by 10 cants we want. And then I'm also looking for 12-inch diameter logs for the 4 8 by 8 cants that we want. So the plan would be, hopefully, is we can get multiple logs out of one tree. So if I'm eyeballing a poplar over here, we're going to go measure, and hopefully we can get one of our 10 by 10 cants out of the base, the butt log, and then we can get maybe one of our 8 by 8 cants out of the further up. So let's go look at it. So just about 10 feet off my road here is a decent sized poplar. Got a little red maple in front of it, maybe an issue. Let's see what we're dealing with diameter wise here. All right, so this is right at 14-inch diameter. And we said we needed 14.5. I think my actual calculation came to 13.9, so kind of pushing my luck here because that's a chest height and it's going to taper some. Now I can have a little bit of wane in this wood and it not be an issue since it's not structural. But I'm going to stick a pin in this. I like this one simply because it's real close to the road and we can work from there. Let's go back. There's another one right here behind me. Okay, so right behind that poplar was another poplar here. Let's see if it's any bigger. Looks like it's probably actually a cat's whisker smaller. That's a 13-inch diameter log. So that's a 13 7/8. We need to keep on looking for our bigger. I can still drop it and get it to the road that I can reach it, so no big issue there. So this will be our first one, and my goodness, there's probably 40 or 50 feet before you get to the first limb. So we'll see. We'll put this one on the ground first, and then we'll just measure out what we can get before we cut anything else. All right, so we got this log skidded out. Let's just see how long it is to that first limb, just right before the box scraper. Now see, Kelly, if I hadn't spent $75 on a tape measure, I couldn't have done this. This is science. All right, so this log is officially 49.5 feet long. We obviously don't need a 49.5 foot long log. We need much smaller. So let's see what we can get out here. Obviously, you do the math, that gives us 4 10-foot logs and then some leftover. Because again, we'll cut a little bit longer than 10. We'll cut probably 10/6. But the question will be, how many 15-inch diameter or 14.5-inch diameter logs do I have in there? So I can either start cutting the logs, or I can try to put my diameter tape underneath it and see. So I'm going to walk off 10 feet here. Yeah, so that first log actually goes down to 14. So that first log's barely going to be enough because we need 13.9. And it's pretty straight. So there's one of our 3. But then we've got 3 more logs here that if I went to, let's take 9 feet off of this end. What did we say we needed on the other one? What was the diameter we needed on that? What was the diameter? That's the cant. I think I've got it here in my pocket. It's very sweaty. 12 inch. Oh, my notes is bleeding. Here, take that, please. My ink's running. Look how sweaty that is. Nasty. It's sweat. It's in my pocket. So that's a 9-footer. $11-inch. So 3 logs that we need to do our project, but there'll also be 1 extra log that can be for some other project. Now again, obviously I'm not going to throw that thing away, and it's not going to give me the exact yield I want, but I can mill it. So as we put these logs on the ground, when we say, hey, an extra one, it's worth going ahead and cutting that up instead of dropping another tree. So we'll let that factor in as well. So the big question is, do we try to skid it down as long as it is, so I only have to drag it once, or do we cut it up into sections and do multiple skids? All right, so we got the second tree down. This is the one that was almost 16 inches in diameter at the butt. The problem is, when it was standing, I couldn't see the issues. But once I got it on the ground, I can see it's got a pretty crazy dog leg. Now that dog leg is, let's measure here. We had to go fishing with this one. I had to use the winch to get it out. Still got a lot of good log in it, but yow. Yeah, so that's 30 feet to that dog leg. And that's pretty. So I really couldn't tell in the canopy that this was had this crooked. It wasn't until we got it on the ground. It's kind of like that, the hot chick you dated in college that everything seemed perfect, and then you married her and got her home and found out how twisted she really was. Whoa! Hey, cameraman, you're supposed to film, not do commentary. Did you just throw a chunk of coal at me? You did. Where did you find the chunk of coal? You had that hidden in your pocket, didn't you? Okay, so let's cut this up and get it off the hill before I get killed. Okay, so here at Red Tool House, we like to think fastball and adjust for the curve, so we can just do away with our plans. No, actually, 2 trees on the ground yielded a lot more logs than I thought. So I'm not going to be able to get those specific 3 10 by 10 cants and 4 8 by 8 cants. But it makes sense not to waste the logs and go cut another tree just to get that. If I had to get 10 by material, 2 by 10s, then that would be an issue, but I only need 2 by 6s. So what I've got here, just out of these 2 trees, obviously here's the crazy dog leg. Kelly wouldn't let me just leave it up in the woods. She wanted me to bring it home, so I'll cut the dog leg out of it about right here and still get a 10-foot log out of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 10-foot logs in this stack of out of 2 trees. I'll alter my plans a little bit, still have the same cut list that I want to get out. I'll just have to work my cants a little differently, mill more than 7 logs, but it would be a shame to waste these. So we're going to get these cleaned up, of course, since they're covered in mud. We're going to pressure spray them and get them on the mill, but that'll be for another video. So we appreciate everybody watching. Y'all take care. That's one of those things when you're standing like that, you just can't tell. It's kind of like that crazy girl, the hot girl you dated in college. She looked good, acted normal, and then when you married her and got her home, everything turned out crazy. Hey, cameraman, you're supposed to record, not commentary. Did you just throw a lump of coal at me? You did. Where does one find coal? Do that again. You didn't come close to hitting me. Got to get in the shot.